Kaiden Guhle signed a huge 6-year extension, but what's really making the headlines is his agent Alain Roy was spilling the beans about some quotes from Kent Hughes behind the scenes, and some details were revealed about the entire negotiation process. We're going to dive into everything that was said, plus some advanced stats that show that Guhle should more than grow into this contract. And a final little note on Ivan Demidov that I think is going to make a lot of you quite happy. So stick around for all of that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. We're going to jump straight into it, Jesse. And I wanted to start with Demidov. He is happy because he was picked by the Montreal Canadiens, of course, and he's healthy. By all accounts, the KHL English Twitter account tweeted out that the medicals were passed, including Ivan Demidov, flashing the deuces. Of course, he had a pretty tough injury in the playoffs last season. Jesse still put up 28 points in 17 playoff games. He's an unreal player. That's no secret to any Habs fan, or really anyone that has looked at Demidov ever. But at the same time, to hear that he's passed his medical, he seems to be in good health, especially after not really being able to participate at full capacity at the draft combine. He didn't really go to, but that other Gold Star event down in Florida. It's great to see that he's healthy, and I can't wait to see what is coming over the next few weeks as we figure out who's going to be on SKA's final roster.
Yeah, I'm taking all the Ivan Demidov updates that we can get as we're getting closer to the season. I cannot wait to see him play, right? We're seeing him in the gym. He's with the weights, he's kind of working his weight back up to kind of get back into that game shape, right? But absolutely seeing him on the ice and what he can do this year in the KHL is going to be huge, right? We know the expectations are through the roof. Last year, the only player in NHL history to average 2 points per game. Better than Kucherov, better than Kaprizov, all of that, right? So what is he going to do at the KHL level, right? Obviously, we really believe in him. It seems like there's a solid plan being put in place. So really looking forward to seeing him on the ice very soon now.
For sure. And hey, another KHL update, kind of outside the scope of the Habs, but second round pick from this year's draft, Igor Chernyshov from the San Jose Sharks, who also spent half of his year last year in the MHL and half of it in the KHL. Well, he's over in North America now. He voided his contract to the KHL to come over, so I'm just saying, this is becoming a process that's becoming easier and easier to do. So even though it's probably not going to be this year, the precedent's being set, Jesse, and I think there'll be no hesitation as soon as he's ready to come over to North America. But he's not the focus of this video. We got to talk about Kaiden Guhle. Now, as you guys know, Guhle signed. Very simple. He did. You guys have already heard that. But I wanted to dive into some of the other stuff, Jesse. And the first thing I want to do, though, is show his stats. Because Kaiden Guhle, well, he is pretty awesome. I mean, look at that. 70 games. Now, the 22 points is definitely lower than we were expecting after his rookie season, where he was, putting up similar points to Jake Sanderson, a guy that we'll talk about in the next section of the video. But look, giveaways and takeaways is what it is. He blocked 178 shots at 116 hits, and I wanted to bring up what JFresh had to say about him, Jesse. And JFresh, as you guys know, one of the best in advanced analytics, especially on Twitter. Go follow JFresh. Fantastic stuff. Guhle signed to a 6-year, $5.6 million extension by Montreal. He's a young, tough, minute-munching defensive defenseman with strong skating ability and a good shot. Habs are making a reasonable bet here that he has the physical tools to grow into a 2 or 3D. Now, the projected wins above replacement is really low because he didn't fare very well in the penalty kill or his even strength offense, but part of that is because Montreal's penalty kill was not very good, and Guhle was put out in a lot of tough situations. And again, on the even strength offense, this guy was playing against the other team's top defensive pairs pretty much constantly. But even look at that, though. His primary assist was in the 94th percentile, 75th percentile in goals. It's just the impact overall on offense wasn't there. He had an injury-shortened season, Jesse. We know he put up numbers similar to Sanderson before. That offensive potential is just waiting to be unlocked. This is just, honestly, to me, an absolute steal to have him, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, and Caufield all under $30 million under team control until 2030.
We have the nucleus, dare I say, the family of this team set up, right? Good vibes only with the Habs. They're really getting to grow together, which is just phenomenal to see, right? And getting that maturity, which we're going to see in this third year now of this group kind of together. Kaiden Guhle mentioned in his press conference early today, like he said, what's going to allow this team to have that killer instinct to be able to win those one goal type of game? He knew the answer right away. Maturity, right? Getting more experience. And it makes sense. You got to pay your dues in the NHL. You got to deserve those wins. And a lot of that, unfortunately, comes with that experience, and everything else, right? So really interesting to see them kind of get ready to take that step next year. And what this now opens up for Kent Hughes, now that he's taking care of business, like you got to wonder, now that the housekeeping is done, is he now able to maybe focus on that top six? that besides the point. It's just like, with this being done, he now gets to focus on the bigger picture of what the Habs want to do. And I'm pretty excited about the implications of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Me too. And another good thing about this is this doesn't even affect the cap this year. Guhle's still on his ELC for next season. So this doesn't kick in until the 2025-26 season, which means anyone that was worried about Montreal's cap space, don't be. They still have almost $6 million to play with. So like you said, Jesse, there's lots of moves to come, but honestly, like, this is a gamble more than worth taking. When you look at a guy like Brock Faber, who signed 8 years and about 8.5, you look at a guy like Jake Sanderson, who signed 8 years, $8 million. Guhle at 6 years at 5.5, and we're going to get into some of the details now in a second, but it's an absolute steal. Let us know your thoughts about Guhle's contract down below, and just the Habs contract structure as a whole, because every day we're saying it's another great move for Kent Hughes, and I know there's some of you negative people out there saying all we do is praise Kent Hughes, but I got nothing negative to say for now. As soon as he does something negative, I'm sure we'll talk about it, Jesse, but this is looking amazing. But what's really interesting is some of the details behind it. Now, Kaiden Guhle's agent was talking about this with TV Aspal today and was just kind of saying, oh yeah, here's literally every single thing that happened in the whole process. I'm just going to show you guys. He basically said if we had gone to 8 years, it would have been in that region. They were talking about Jake Sanderson, of 8 million per season, but that was a non-starter for the team. Kent Hughes didn't want to go there. That's why we ended up in the middle with 6 years. And he went on to say that at 7 or 8 years, we wanted something in the region of $8 million or more. The final thing, not that. That was the wrong one. He did not say test. Kent didn't want to go to 5 years because the I spelled Canadians wrong. Because I put this into a translator. It was in French. That's my fault. I'm sorry. Because the Canadiens were only buying 1 year of UFA. They wanted at least 2 years. At 5 years, it would have been a home run for us. He could have become a UFA at 27. And now Guhle's becoming a UFA at 28, about 29 years old, Jesse. It's good for him. He'll be worth a lot of money at that point. He'll probably be able to get a 6, 7, 8 year contract at that point. I guess 6 or 7, depending on which team it's with. And for now, like, the fact he didn't want to go to 5, because that was going to be buying up too little of the UFA, just kind of a masterclass by Kent Hughes. You don't have to spend that $8 million. You get him at a reasonable cap hit. You give the Habs at least until 2030, which is when Suzuki's contract runs out, tons of time to build with Guhle, to let him develop, to let him be worth that contract without that long-term commitment, and Guhle will be able to make a lot of money at the end. It's an absolute win-win, but I find it crazy that we're just hearing these exact details of everything Kent Hughes wanted to do.
We're getting all the details, right? But, this is a fair and right deal from Kent Hughes, because the thing is like, Kaiden Guhle, his offensive numbers are going to go up when he's not being tasked with the toughest matchups all the time, when not being asked to play right side on D instead of his natural left. Like, he's playing tough minutes and still being a champ about it, right? So you have to feel kind of like Nick Suzuki getting the second line, how that eases a lot of load off you. Kaiden Guhle, as that young decor kind of grows behind him, right? Getting that support is just going to free him up so much to concentrate a little bit more on the offensive side. And that's where this contract is absolutely going to be a steal, because we know what he can do on the defensive end, but he's a smooth skater and he's going to get himself more and more consistently in positions to score, right? I feel like this is a perfect deal from Kent Hughes, not only on the term, where on the pod, we like to talk about these things, obviously, projecting of where this is going to come. We mentioned like 5 to 6 year deal.
We called it.
And, 5.5, right? Friends of we know we got people watching every day. They know, right? Like 5.5 was that sweet number. That's the one I really wanted. 6 would have been okay, but I was like 5.5 would be amazing. Obviously, we've gotten amazing feedback, even from our fans discussing this live. A lot of them kind of feeling something in this range as well. So you have to feel like Kent Hughes completely nailed this out of the park. It's a big commitment at the same time. I think there's something being said when it's not the 8-term deal. It's because and it's not because they don't believe in Kaiden Guhle. They want to see it even more, though. They want this guy to have a letter on his sweater, be a leader on that decor. I believe he will be probably one of our defensemen to get, an assistant at least at some point in the future, right? But like, they want him to grow. And to be honest, if he continues doing what he's doing, he's just going to put himself in line for another big pay raise in that 6 years' time.
He has been like the most challenged defenseman, one of them in the NHL, like you said, on his offside against the top forwards, top defensemen across the league. It's been amazing to see it. I actually think if you go back, you'll see a really old thumbnail from a number of months ago with Kaiden Guhle and $52 million next to his head, because that was the original projection after Sanderson just signed his extension. As the season's gone on, we got an absolute steal. It's not even that Guhle did that much worse. Those offensive numbers, that slight tick down might do the Habs favors. And Jesse, the final thing I'm going to say before we end this video, I said it before, I think I might have said it on a stream. I'm not going to say this is exactly what's going to happen, but you look at the Golden State Warriors and how they were able to make a dynasty in the NBA. For those of you who don't watch the NBA, I'll explain this. They had a bunch of young players who signed extensions that were good at the time, but the NBA had an unprecedented jump in salary cap hugely over the next couple seasons that made those contracts absolute bargains so they could bring in big name free agents like Kevin Durant. The Habs, the cap is expected to jump a lot in the next 2 years, Jesse, just in the next 2 years, and we know it too. Yet the Habs are still signing deals that are very more than fair, that we're saying are arguably bargains today. In a year or two, I think that this is maybe not going to be on that level, because that is like absolutely historic what they did, but it's just another reason to think that like this could be so good.
We're in this for the long term, right? We're looking at like a lot of our core group. We're having them under that 30 million type of mark when we're looking at a cap going up around 100 million, right? Like that's a lot of money for the rest of your roster. And again, we don't like to throw shade just at other teams for no reason, but we'll bring up the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? We're doing the complete opposite of what they did. And this contract just reinforces that right away. But again, I think, this is an amazing draft pick, an amazing character person, and he's getting rewarded for just all of his great work, right? And I think he's going to do nothing but just continue to earn that deal.
For sure. It's going to be amazing to see. Let us know what your thoughts are on this whole thing. I mean, including what Kaiden Guhle's agent said. We kind of got a bit off topic at the end down below because that stuff is super interesting. But anyway, in the meantime, if you enjoyed, that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. Leave a like on the video on your way out. It'd really help us. We really appreciate it. And it's a way for you to show some love to the channel. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.